Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you, Guy. Good morning, everyone. So, a few things I want to cover this morning, rather than just focusing on one. Thursday, as you may have picked up, we are going to move our chapel service towards recognizing that devastating tragedy that's just taken place. And I know this affected so many people in our school community, across the country and across the world, as you've seen if you've been tracking the news. There's nothing worse for a parent than losing a child, simple as that. And for educators, it's the same feeling when you lose a student. For coaches, same thing. And so for that to happen, it's just unthinkable, actually. But more to do what we can't do very much other than to acknowledge and recognize and support in any way, shape, or form that we can. And we're going to do that on Thursday. The chaplain's got various students that are going, Dean and various others that are going to talk a little bit about that, and we'll as I say, we'll dedicate the whole service to it. On Thursday, it seems there's a national wear hockey jersey as a symbolic sign of support, or green, which is the colour of the Humboldt Broncos. So let's get behind that and do what we do as Shawnigan. We do that so well. So more of that on Thursday. So a couple of things that I want to have us recognize this morning and hear about. And I'm going to start with Josh Wheeler and Stefan Esquivel to talk about the Japan Super Science Fair, not just a science fair, Super Science Fair, that they went to. Come on, you two.
Well, hello everyone. So as you probably heard from us earlier this year, we were given the excellent opportunity to go and present science projects in Ritsumakan Junior Senior High School in Kyoto, Japan for 7 days. During this amazing time, we learned about scientific projects and concepts from students and professors from around the world, even a Nobel laureate. And we had an absolutely wonderful sample of all these concepts superimposed on a marvelous exploration of Japanese culture. And since this is an annual event, we're looking for keen science-minded individuals to make up next year's team.
I would really recommend grade 10s and 11s who have an interest in any of the STEM fields to come by the new junior science room during creativity time tomorrow to discuss ideas and what to expect from the event. We will be sending out an email to all students, and we hope to see you there. Thank you.
I'm now going to ask Mr. Klassen to come and tell you about some great SC award-winning achievements, and then on to Model UN. Shawman. Thank you.
Good morning, students. Mr. Robertson. Could I ask Hallie Bryant, Moira McHugh, and Melanie Bristol to join me at the podium, please? These three young ladies, enrolled in my French Social Studies 10 class, wrote First World War letters based on the lives of three individuals that lived in Victoria 100 years ago. These letters included primary sources from the families they researched and recounted the trauma surrounding the devastating losses that people endured as a result of this useless conflict, the First World War. They submitted their letters to the Government of Canada's History Awards, a national competition that aims to connect youth to their history by honoring outstanding students who've shown interest in celebrating Canadian history. Upon the return to Shawnigan last week, we saw each other and smiled because they each received not only a certificate, but a check for $1,000 each. Yeah. So I would ask, first I'd like to thank all students who participated in the competition. They weren't the only three, but they were the only three winners. And it's my pleasure to ask Mr. Robertson to present them with their certificates. Well done. So shifting gears, over the weekend, approximately 75 Shawnigan students participated in Shaman 2018, which was hosted for the first time at the Victoria Conference Centre and in the chamber of the provincial legislature. This conference included the participation of over 20 schools, some as far as from New York, and a total of 325 student delegates. Not too shabby for our inaugural conference in Victoria, I'd say. I reckon those of you that were delegates are not that keen to stand this morning. But I'm going to ask you to just stand for just a moment so we can have a sense of how many of you were actually involved as delegates at Shaman. So please, just stand now. Go ahead. There we go. So as you know, that's about half of those that participated. So kudos to those that stood. From all accounts, it sounds like it was a worthwhile experience. Shout out to Henry Gave, who recruited a record number of grade 8s to join us this year. So he's quite the lobbyist. If you need help with something, some lobbying, talk to Henry. We'd also like to thank those that helped on the technical side of things, including Reese Trafford, Dalton Sparks, who worked with IT, Freddie Wang and Stephen Wen as our videographers, Alexis Welsh as our photographer, and of course Jay Flex for DJing our dance. For the record, I overheard a Shawnigan student say at the end of the dance, I would say that was Jay Flex's best dance ever. So it feels like maybe we're going to be cueing the Oscar music at this point, but here comes why I've come up, and one of the big reasons. I'd ask the secretariat and the staff to make their way to the podium here with me, please, for a photo. And you're all going to stand together, so don't worry, it's not going to be too bad. So come on up. So we'll be maybe snapping a shot here in just a second, but I have just a few things to say. I'm almost done. So last year's Secretary General, does anybody remember who it was? Zane Karmali. And I know he's watching live, so shout out to Zane. So Zane Karmali last year, along with Hallie and Owen coming, sold Mr. Robertson on the vision to move the conference to Victoria. However, vision is only the first step in any great project. Big ideas don't usually see the light because big ideas take people to buy into them. And these big ideas also take a lot of hard work and passion to make them materialize and come to life. Those joining me at the podium were the backbone of making Shaman 2018 a reality. Organizing a Model UN conference is a remarkable achievement. Organizing a conference where 10 committees are meeting simultaneously is more impressive still. Organizing a conference with 10 committees while trying not to fail your classes is more impressive yet. Although I'd like to talk about Demir's enlightening speech at the opening ceremony. I know we're all smiling because we love his presence. And I'd also like to talk about everyone else's unique contributions. I only have a minute here left before the music cues in here. And I have to single out our Secretary General, Hallie Campbell. As all good bosses know, you need to lead by example. As the French say, acta non verba. Hallie worked tirelessly on this project since September and did not shy away from the hard work. She jokes with me about being an expert at delegating jobs, But you can't do that without first earning the respect of your team. Hallie is also an incredible public speaker. And in fact, you should have been hearing from her today, as she is much better at this sort of thing than I am. She speaks from the heart when she's at the podium, and her words have inspired this team and others to act. She started as an MUN page in grade 8 and moved her way up to this position as Secretary General so she could chart new territory for our conference. She's an incredible leader, and we, not just me, but we thank her for her leadership this year. Thank you, Hallie. So it was a privilege to work with such a dedicated team of young people. It really was. And I think if you were in Victoria over the weekend, you felt a bit of that magic. Please, and we've already congratulated, so thank you to the staff and to the Secretariat. Mr. Robertson, would you mind stepping up for a photo with the team, and then we're done.
Don't mind. No. Good. Will I go?
Yeah, come right here.
Here. This is good. The big guy in the back. Yeah. Very gallant. Very gallant. Perfect. Well done. Well done, team. Well done. So what a magnificent achievement again from yet another program of which we're incredibly proud at Shawnigan. So keep up the good work. The future looks bright and rosy for this incredible program. Well done, all of you there. Mr. Klassen, Senora Carballo, and Hallie, and the rest of your team, you pulled it off big time. When we talked about this, as you recalled, I was wondering at the time, that's a bit of an undertaking, and you pulled it off big time. So again, thank you for your leadership. Well done. A little reminder that last year you heard about, if you were here, you heard about the Furlonger Métis Scholarship. So this is the first year that scholarship will be awarded. So just as a first step, if you think that you may have some Métis in your heritage, can you verify that and then let Ms. Miranda know, and then we'll talk about the scholarship itself in the next week or two. And so this morning, I got a WhatsApp message when I picked up my phone at 6:10 or something. And it was from Scotland. It was from little Nairn Wells, who was coming as the Scottish exchange student in grade 8, but was so desperately homesick that she just didn't make it. But she's still in touch with me. And I had sent a band to Nairn. She's doing really well, by the way. I had sent a wristband to her. And you've all forgotten about these things, haven't you? Put your hands up if you're still wearing one. Is that all? Well, I'm just going to move mine because I'm going to complain. That was miserable. So here I'm moving it. I couldn't do anything about it because, of course, we've been away. Normally in the past, we've kind of made a bit of a game of it and had every couple of days had a little check-in and so on. So I understand that it gets lost in the shuffle. And it wasn't a big deal. The whole notion was just to plant a thought in your head about how you're doing, how you're reacting to life and situations, and are you the positive force that you want to be? So, with that said, though, is there an individual out there who only changed it from wrist to wrist about 10 times? Can you stand up? Put your hand up. Stand up. Yeah, stand up. Come on, stand up. Yeah. Well done. Well done. That's a round of applause. Yeah. How about between 6 and 10 times? Between 6 and 10 times? Oh, nobody. Okay, how about between 1 and 6? Anybody? Mr. McDaniel, come on, stand up. You are the man, again, yeah? Give Mr. McDaniel a round of applause. And of course, you know, I'm just making the assumption that there isn't anybody out there that never changed it. Is there anybody that never changed it? Wow. Okay. Well, guess what? Mr. McDaniel wins a prize, a voucher for dinner that you can have with anybody you choose because you're such good company, because you're always positive, right? That was the prize. I forgot to tell you there was a prize there. Well done. Talking about complaints, and this you'll see my little segue here. I picked up a little anonymous letter, just slid under my door, and the thing you should know is that anonymous letters don't work for me because they're the opposite of what I believe in. So if there's something that you feel strongly about, you have to have the courage to deal with it. You can't hide behind anonymity. It's just not how you should approach life. This wasn't particularly bad, I have to say. It was somebody trying to be funny. I guess they were doing a little cartoon, and they finally discovered the conspiracy theory that I was the president of the National Chicken Society or something, which is why we have so much chicken in Marion Hall, right? Yeah. Well, you obviously thought it was funnier than I did. But somebody was trying to be funny. But again, you know, I would much rather you shared it with rather than did it anonymously. And on that, I'm actually going to talk about that for a second because I am going to complain. I'm going to change it again. Oh, jeez. I'm going to complain. I'm going to complain because there are some people that forget some of the elements that are at the heart of Marion Hall. One of those is respect. So we've got chefs in there that have been chefs in the finest of restaurants anywhere. Four Seasons in the Caribbean, Unsworth when it was at its finest, and so on. We have that quality of chefs, and I was so dismayed when I was on the road there to get an email from one of them talking about it's a little bit disheartening when you try and make something special and the students don't even try it, right? You tried something with red cabbage that had cinnamon and sugar, and he said they would have loved it if they'd tried it, but the trays just came back untried, untested. And that, to me, that's so not what we do, right? First of all, it generates an incredible amount of waste, which is a whole other area that we should be attending to. And secondly, it's really insulting to the efforts of the kitchen staff, right? So I'm complaining because I just want you to be a part of the solution. I've described the problem. The problem is that feeding a disparate community of close to 700 people 3 times a day and trying to keep them all happy with all their different tastes is really challenging, right? So it's our responsibility to try to keep our awareness high about what people are trying to do. Now, maybe we should actually have a little bit, as they do in a restaurant, a little bit of an explanation about, you know, tonight's main course is such and such, it's made with such and such, and taste it, you'll love it. Because for some reason, there are so many of you out there who just default to not trying things. And that's particularly true when we try and do something other than chicken, right? So if you don't do chicken, what do? You put red meat. There's a lot of people who don't like red meat. Or you put fish. Oh, fish. Fish doesn't go down well with you lot. Seafood. Oh, I don't like seafood. Right? So we go on. So before you start complaining about the chicken, be part of the solution. And Mr. Pragmatic is going to we've had a chat already, Sir CB is going to reinstate the food committee. So you will have an opportunity where we'll have a committee, staff and students, who will meet regularly with our catering staff and be a part of the solution to this, so that we don't generate tons of waste and we don't have people feeling undervalued and insulted. Does that make sense? Yep. Good. There we go. Thank you. All right. Hopefully I'll be able to keep my bracelet in place for one more day. On Saturday at the end of the chapel, you heard me say something about details. I'm not going to develop it. I just want to say that what I've just been talking about, that's part of what I mean when I talk about attend to the details. Look after the small stuff that's important, that makes us who we are. It's that small stuff. You don't have to sweat it, you just have to look after it. Just attend to it. All these little details that make the difference. And finally, Mrs. Robertson and I had the incredible privilege and honor of an event on Saturday night that was just simply outstanding. It was beyond special for us, and so many people made it thus. I want to just single out a few individuals. Ms. Blair here, who spent months and months of hours and long days putting it all together, and some of you would not realize that. So I want to acknowledge how meaningful the whole event became to us, and it was so much fun for everybody that was there. She was ably assisted by Ms. Olson and Mrs. Plater. But Ms. Blair, thank you. Take a bow. Thank you. And the last group I'm going to point out to is that, have you heard of ABBA? Yeah? Do you know who ABBA are? Yeah? You still know who ABBA are? Well, what you don't know is that Mrs. Robertson is a lifelong ABBA fan. If you want to get Mrs. Robertson sort of animated, just put on Dancing Queen or one of those ABBA songs. So what a tribute, a special tribute it was when the choir did this whole medley of ABBA songs on Saturday night. And that was, among many highlights, that was probably the highlight. So, choir, I want you to stand and receive our thanks and everybody else's recognition. Come on, the choir that did the ABBA. You can dance if you want to. You guys were brilliant. So finally, I'll close by welcoming a new member to our community. She's in Groves House. She's in grade 8, Taya Downey. Taya, are you there? Where are you? She's sick. Oh, poor Taya. Taya's sick on her first day. Anyway, we'll acknowledge her another day. Thanks, everybody.